Hello, I'm Dr. Shadab Kazi and I'm here to teach you O levels biology. The first topic that we are going to cover today in this lecture is cell structure and organization. The learning objectives of today's lecture are to understand the basic structure of cell, to differentiate between plant cell and animal cell, structure level of organization, and what are specialized cells. So, by the end of this lecture, you must be familiar with these basic concepts. That is, you must know what is a cell, what are its components, and what are specialized cells. So, to start, let's start with our first topic, that is structure of a cell. To start, let's first understand what is a cell. The cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. That is, all living organisms will be made up of small units which are known as cells. Okay, so let's start with what is the structure of cell. So all living cell will have three main components. That is, it will have the outermost structure or membrane which will form its outermost boundary. This is called cell membrane. So the blue line over here, it shows the cell membrane. The cell membrane is the outermost boundary of the cell which separates the intracellular components of cell from the extracellular environment. In the center of the cell will have a rounded structure. This rounded structure is called nucleus. In between nucleus and cell membrane there will be fluid. This fluid is called cytoplasm. This cytoplasm is the site where all living functions of the cell, that is, where all the chemical reactions will take place. So, in today's lecture, what we have to do is we have to understand how this cell membrane is formed, what is its function. We have to understand how this nucleus is formed and what function it performs. Similarly, we have to discuss the structure and function of cytoplasm. That is, this cytoplasm is divided into two parts. It will have one liquid part, and when you will see this microscope, when you will see this cell under a microscope, you will see some solid structures in it as well. These solid structures are called organelles. So you have to discuss these organelles as well. We will we will discuss the structure and function of these organelles. So let's move towards the next part of our topic, that is cell organelle. So what are organelles? Remember, organelles are small structures that are present in a cell. Previously, when the microscopes were not good, scientists used to think that cell is the smallest unit. But now, since we have more powerful microscopes, we know that the cell contains some smaller structures as well, and these smaller structures which are helping the cell in different functions are called organelles. Okay, so let's move towards the next part, that is cell membrane. In this section, you have to understand how cell membrane is formed and how it is performing different functions. Okay, so remember that cell membrane consists of small units, or cell membrane is made up of small units called phospholipid molecules. Okay, so cell membrane is made up of phospholipid molecule. Here, this shows a typical structure of a phospholipid molecule. It will have two parts. One is phosphate part. This rounded head over here is the phosphate head of phospholipid. And these chains, they are called, they are the lipid side chains of phospholipid, or they are the fatty acids attached to phosphate group. Okay, so this is the structure of phospholipid. It will have two components. One is the phosphate head, and the other are the fatty acid tails of lipid molecules which are attached to it. Now remember that phospholipid molecule has dual nature. That is, it's phosphate and is hydrophilic. Okay, so the phosphate end is hydrophilic while the fatty acid chains are hydrophobic. Okay, so these fatty acid chains are hydrophobic. This makes the dual nature of phospholipid molecule. That is, it has amphiphilic nature. One end will be hydrophilic and the other end will be hydrophobic. Now let's see how these phospholipid molecules makes a barrier around the cell. So let's assume we have placed these phospholipid molecules in water. So for example, here are the phospholipid molecules. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry for that. For example, here are the water molecules. Okay, so here are the water molecules. Now, how these phospholipid molecules will arrange itself. Since these fatty acid chains are hydrophobic, it means they have fear of water. They will be repelled by water. This is the same case that when you place a drop of oil in a glass of water, you have seen that the oil will get repelled by water. It will not mix in it. Similarly, these fatty acid chains or lipids will not get mixed in water. So what they do is they try to face away from water. And since these phosphate ends, they are hydrophilic, they have love of water, so they face the water. Okay, so the phosphate head will be facing outward towards the water. Similarly, all other molecules of phospholipid will arrange itself in the same way. That is, the phosphate end will be facing out while the lipid side chains will be facing inward. Okay, so these are two fatty acid tails of phospholipid molecule. Okay, so all the molecules will arrange itself in the same manner. Since we have placed them in water, as water is present over here, in the same way, water will be present over here as well. If water is present over here, then these fatty acid chains are touching it. So to avoid that, one more layer of phospholipid will be formed and it will get arranged in the same manner. That is, its phosphate end will be facing water while its fatty acid side chain will be facing inward. Okay, so this is how it will get arranged. Now our two layers is formed of phospholipid molecules. In both of these layers, the phosphate ends will be facing outward towards the water, while the lipid side chains will be facing inward. Due to this, the fatty acid side chains are not coming in contact with water, so they will not get repelled and the structure will not get distorted. So this is how a bilayer structure of phospholipid is formed around the cell. Now you must be thinking, since it is in water, the water might touch these fatty acid side chains over here. But this will not be the case, as these phospholipid molecules will form a sphere or a circle in which the phosphate ends will be facing outward towards the water, and in the center it will have fatty acid. Okay. So since the interior of cell membrane is hydrophobic, that it will have fat in it. So the water that is present outside, it cannot cross this barrier. Why? Because it will get repelled by fatty acid side chains. In the same way, the water that is present inside cannot cross this barrier as well, because it will also get repelled by the fatty acid side chain. So this is how a barrier is formed around the cell. This is called cell membrane. Okay, so they are using the lipid property, hydrophobic property of lipids to form a barrier around the cell. Okay, so this is how a cell membrane will be formed. It will have two layers of phospholipid. And this structure is called phospholipid bilayer since it has two layers. So as here it is written, phospholipids make up the cell membrane. Each phospholipid consists of a phosphate head linked to two fatty acid side chains. The head is hydrophilic and interacts with water. The tails are hydrophobic and hate water. Phospholipids create two layers to make the cell's double membrane. This is called phospholipid bilayer. Now remember, since this phospholipid layer has an hydrophobic interior, so some molecules can pass through it while it will block other molecules. How is that? For example, suppose here there is a molecule of fat which is obviously hydrophobic. Now, and it has small size. Now this molecule has to cross this cell membrane barrier. It can easily do this. Why? Because Since it is hydrophobic, it can dissolve in this cell membrane and pass through the barrier. So this cell membrane will allow small hydrophobic molecules to pass. In the same way, if we talk about large molecules which are charged, these molecules, since they are polar molecules and are hydrophilic, they will obviously, if they try to cross this barrier, they will be repelled by cell membrane. So cell membrane will not allow these large molecules to pass, but it will allow smaller molecules, non-polar molecules, and fatty molecules or hydrophobic molecules. So that is why cell membrane is called semi-permeable. Semi-permeable means that it will allow certain molecules to pass while it will block other molecules. So due to having an hydrophobic interior makes this cell membrane semi-permeable, which is ideal for a barrier or which is ideal to form a boundary around the cell. I hope I'm clear up till now. So let's move forward. We have right now discussed the semi-permeable nature of cell membrane. We have discussed how the structure of cell membrane is formed by phospholipids. Now let's discuss fluid mosaic model. What fluid mosaic model tells us is that these phospholipid molecules that are making the cell membrane, they are not compact in nature. That is, they are not solid or they are not fixed in one place. These molecules are fluid in nature. This means that these phospholipid molecules are floating in the cell membrane. They are not fixed to their position. Instead, they are free to move. Okay, so this is what fluid mosaic model tells, um, as its name indicates. Besides this, it also tells us that the cell membrane besides phospholipid, it also have some protein molecules that are embedded in it and some carbohydrate side chains. All these molecules are floating in this ocean of phospholipid, like icebergs in the sea. Okay, so this for fluid mosaic model tells is that, for example, let's suppose here is a phospholipid molecule. Now this phospholipid molecule will not be fixed to this position. Instead, it will keep moving throughout the cell membrane. That is, it can move to here and then it will come to its original position as well. So it will keep roaming in this cell membrane. This is the fluid mosaic model. Okay, so let's move forward now. We have discussed the structure of cell membrane. Let's talk about the function of cell membrane. The function of cell membrane is that it forms the outermost boundary of cell. Secondly, it allows transport of certain substances while blocking others. That is, it controls what substances will be transported inside the cell and which substances it has to block from entering the cell. Okay, so cell wall. Cell wall is the outermost boundary of the cell, but it is not present in all the cells. Cell wall is present only in plant cells. It is made up of cellulose, and remember, cell membrane is a completely permeable barrier. That is, it will allow everything to pass through it. Now, cell wall, has some important functions that it plays inside in a plant cell. One of these functions is turgor pressure. That is, cell wall helps in generating turgor pressure. What is a turgor pressure? For example, you have placed a plant cell in an hypotonic solution. Now remember that in an hypotonic solution, the water potential of cell is going to be higher, or you can say the concentration of water is high. Okay, so the water potential is going to be high. Now, since the outside of cell has a high water potential, the inside of cell will be having, okay, sorry for this, the inside of cell will be having low water potential. So this is a downward arrow showing low water potential. If you want to understand more about solutions and tonicity and its effect on cell of plant, then you can watch the video on diffusion and osmosis. In that, I have explained it in detail how different tonicity of solution will affect movement of water. So now, for right now, let's just stick to our topic, that is turgor pressure. So just remember for the time being that hypotonic solution will have high water potential. So the inside of the cell have low water potential. Due to this, the water will move inside the cell. This inside osmosis of water will expand the cell cytoplasm. For example, this is a cell wall and this is cytoplasm of cell. You have placed this cell in an hypotonic solution. The water will move inside the cell through osmosis. Due to this influx of water, the cell cytoplasm will expand. Okay, so for example, the cell cytoplasm has expanded and it is now touching the cell wall. Here it was not touching the cell wall. Due to touching the cell wall, this cell cytoplasm will force the cell wall or push the cell wall outward. This outward force on the cell wall is called turgor pressure. Okay. So due to this turgor pressure, what does this turgor pressure do is that it provides support to the cell. As it is shown in this picture over here, this is a fully turgid cell, and due to this turgor pressure, this plant is standing erect. So this turgor pressure is providing support to plant. On the other side of the image, you can see the cell cytoplasm is shrunken, so the turgor pressure has diminished, and due to loss of turgor pressure, this plant is wilting. Okay, so this is one important function of cell wall, that it provides turgor pressure, and by providing turgor pressure, it provides support to the plant cell. This support is necessary for plant cell because plants does not have an skeleton like a bony framework that we have in our body. So, so this is how cell wall helps plant. Besides this, this cell wall also provides some protection to the cell, and this cell wall also gives a definite shape to plant cell. Okay, so this was it for cell wall, and we have discussed the structure of cell wall and we have discussed the function of cell wall. Now let's move towards our next topic, that is nucleus. The nucleus is the center organ of the cell and it is the control unit of the cell. That is, it controls all the activities that is going to take place in the cell, and it will have all the recipes, all the information for the reactions or for the tasks that a cell performs. Okay, so let's first discuss the structure of a nucleus. The structure of a nucleus has three main components. That is, it will have a outer membrane, This outer membrane, which forms the boundary of nucleus, it is called nuclear membrane. So here you can see it shows a double membrane, and this double membrane is called nuclear membrane. It will have same structure as your cell membrane. That is, it will be made up of phospholipid molecules. In the center, you can see a rounded dense structure. This dense rounded structure is called nucleolus. In between nucleolus and nuclear membrane, there is fluid called nuclear plasm. Okay. Besides this, you can see some thread-like structures that are present in it. These thread-like structures are called chromatin network. This chromatin network contains your DNA. That is, your genetic information is present inside it. Okay, so this is the basic structure of nucleus. It will have nuclear membrane, it will have nucleolus, it will have nuclear plasm, and it will have chromatins. Besides this, remember, for transport of materials, a nuclear membrane will have some small holes. These small holes are called nuclear pores. As you can see over here, these are nuclear pores. These nuclear pores control transport of materials inside and outside of the cell. Okay, so this was the basic structure of nucleus. Beside this, the main function of nucleus, as we said, that it controls all the activities of the cell, and it has the information. It has your genetic information. Okay, so this was it for nucleus. Let's move forward to our other organelles. The next organelle is endoplasmic reticulum. So let's draw our cell again. Here is your cell. Here is the nucleus. Now, in the same way as you need transport to go from one place to another, in the same way your cell has also has some means of transport. These are called endoplasmic reticulum. These endoplasmic reticulum basically serve as roads for transport. Okay, so this is your endoplasmic reticulum. For example, if a molecule has to enter the cell from this side, and the same molecule is entering the cell from here, which one will reach the nucleus first? Obviously, this one, which is going through endoplasmic reticulum. Why? Because this endoplasmic reticulum is providing a direction to it. Okay, so these are endoplasmic reticulum. Remember, these endoplasmic reticulum are okay. So remember, these endoplasmic reticulum are made up of membranes. This membrane extends from nucleus to cell membrane. Okay, and these are membrane bound structures. So this serve as roads for the cell. Materials that needs to move out of the cell or materials that need to transport it inside the cell, they can go through endoplasmic reticulum. Now remember, these endoplasmic reticulum have some granular structures. When you see it under a microscope, it will have some granular structure. These granular structures are called protein factories. So these are ribosomes or protein factories that are attached to endoplasmic reticulum. You can remember this like this in a way that, for example, if you want to set up a factory in your city, then which is the best site? Obviously, you will choose a site where the roads are near or where the roads are available. So in the same way, your cells will also have factories on the roads, that is on endoplasmic reticulum. These are called protein factories. Okay, so there will be two types of endoplasmic reticulum. One is this, which has protein factories, and this endoplasmic reticulum is called rough endoplasmic reticulum. Why this is called rough endoplasmic reticulum? Because when you see this under a microscope, it will have granular structure, rough structure. And the other endoplasmic reticulum, which has no protein factories, these are called smooth endoplasmic reticulum. They are called smooth endoplasmic reticulum because they have smooth structure because of lack of ribosomes. Okay, so remember, endoplasmic reticulum are membrane-bound organelles. They extend from your nucleus to your cell membrane, and there will be two types of endoplasmic reticulum: rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Their function is mainly associated with transport. So you can see, you can clearly appreciate endoplasmic reticulum in this picture over here. These membranes which have rough structure, they are rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the one which has smooth structure or smooth surface, they are smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so this was it for endoplasmic reticulum. We have discussed its structure, we have discussed its function. Let's now move forward. Okay, so now let's move towards the next organelle, that is Golgi bodies. So let's draw our cell over here again. This is your cell. This is the nucleus. And here we have endoplasmic reticulum. So there are a lot of things that needs to be made in the inside of the cell. There are a lot of proteins that are made inside the cell. But not all of these proteins are meant to function inside the cell. These some of proteins are made for other cells that are present at other sites in your body. So this is the export function of cell. That is, they make a lot of proteins and then they export it. So it happens in the same way as we do in our countries. For example, if you want to export some material, what you do is you first of all you go to the post office. You give the material to the post office, then they will pack it and they will label it and then they ship it to the site where it was meant to go. In the same way, your cell also have some post office. These post office are called Golgi bodies. So for example, this is your Golgi bodies. It has a structure made up of membranes which are stacked up upon each other. That is, these membranes are placed one over another. Now, for example, you want to shift this molecule. What you have to do, what the cell will do is it will send it to Golgi bodies. These Golgi bodies will label it, it will pack it, and then it will ship it out. So this is the function of Golgi bodies. They are the post office of the cell. You can appreciate your ribosomes over here. They are making proteins for this export purpose, and here is a protein molecule. Now these protein molecules needs to be exported out. So what they do is they send it to Golgi apparatus or Golgi bodies. Now this Golgi bodies will label it and has packed it here over here, and then these molecules are sent out in the vesicle. So this is the function of Golgi bodies. I hope I'm clear up till now, and I hope you are with me. Let's move towards our next organelles. We are not going to cover all the organelles, but we are going to cover most of the organelles over here. So lysosomes, what are lysosomes? These are, okay, so remember, let's draw first our cell over here again. So this is your cell, this is its nucleus. Obviously it will have some endoplasmic reticulum and it will have some Golgi apparatus as well. So it is a well developed cell. That is, it will have all the basic facilities that it needs to perform. It will have a Golgi bodies in the same way as you can see when there are factories and there is a lot of work going on. So there are some products that are produced which does not meet the criteria or which are not made of good quality. So these products, what this factory or what the cell has to do is to get rid of them. And in order to get rid of these malfunction structures, what the factory owners do or factory workers do is they send these structures to the storehouse. So in the same way, the cell will, so for this function, the factory has some storehouse or warehouse. In this warehouse, what they do is they send all the waste material or the material that they don't need. And from the storehouse, that it is transported out or it is discarded. In the same way, the cell also has some storehouse as it has been shown over here. Okay, let me draw it again. This rounded structure. This is the storehouse of cell. All those proteins that are not working properly are sent to this storehouse. Here they will be discarded. Why this is important? Because if these proteins get accumulated in the cell, what they will do is they will cause an hindrance in other tasks. So let's draw this storehouse over here, magnified. This rounded structure. This rounded structure is made up of membrane. So this is a membrane bound structure. It will have some enzymes. These enzymes are called hydrolytic enzymes. So for example, if a protein is not working, it will be sent to this membrane bound structure and the hydrolytic enzymes inside it will eat this proteins and destroy this protein. So the end result will be that this protein will not get accumulated inside the cell. These storehouses are called lysosomes. So remember, lysosomes are the storehouse of the cell. It contains some hydrolytic enzymes which destroy any structure that does not need to be stored inside the cell or which needs to be removed from the cell. Okay, so this was it for lysosomes. Now let's move forward. This is the last organelle that we will discuss in today's lecture, vacuoles. So what are vacuoles? Remember, vacuole are membrane-bound organelles. These are membrane-bound structures. Okay, so you can compare a vacuole to an empty box, a membrane-bound structure which is empty from inside. Since you can compare it to an empty box in a way uh, that you have a lot of empty boxes in your house. What you do with these empty boxes is that you all the extra stuff that you don't need for the moment we put them in these empty boxes and then we pack them and then we store them for use in the future. In the same way, there are a lot of things in the cell that the cell needs but not at the moment. So what the cell do is the cell store them in membranes, membrane bound vesicles. These membrane bound vesicles are called vacuole. So here it is a membrane bound vesicle. Here I also have drawn a membrane bound vesicle. Now for example, Cell has to store glucose in it. All the extra glucose cell will store in this vacuole. So this is a glucose storing vacuole. In the same way, cell will have a protein storing vacuole or a lytic vacuole. So these vacuoles are named after the function they are performing for the cell. You can call it a glycogen vacuole also. There are some lipid vacuoles inside the cell as well. Okay, so just remember that these are empty boxes of the cell for storage purposes and they are made up of membranes. Okay, so we have discussed all the major organelles that are present inside the cell. Now let's move towards the next part of the lecture, that is how to differentiate between an animal cell or a plant cell, or what are the major differences that are present inside the animal cell and a plant cell. If you know these, there are some major differences or some basic differences present in a plant cell and animal cell. So you can clearly differentiate or you can clearly tell whether it is a plant cell or animal cell by just looking at it. Okay, so let's discuss what is the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell. So let's first assume the picture over here. Here it shows a plant cell and here is the animal cell. Let's see what basic differences you can see over here. So the first difference that you can clearly observe is that a plant cell have a outermost boundary. This is called cell wall. While in animal cell, the this cell wall is absent. So the first difference between plant cell and animal cell is that plant cell will have cell wall while animal cell will not. The second difference between plant cell and animal cell is that in the center of plant cell you can observe a large vacuole, while in the animal cell this vacuole is absent. So these are the two differences. One is cell wall is present in plant cell. So the two differences will be, number one is cell wall is present in plant cell and the plant cell will have a vacuole. The third difference will be plant cell will have chloroplast while there will be no chloroplast in animal cell. So these are the three main differences. So the three main differences when plant cell and animal cell will be, plant cell will have a cell wall while animal cell will not. Plant cell will have a vacuole in the center while animal cell will not have the vacuole. Plant cell will have chloroplast while there will be no chloroplast in animal cell. These are the three main differences from which you can describe whether it is a plant cell or an animal cell. The one more difference that you can observe over here, which is not that relevant, but it will be present in most of the cell, is that plant cell will have nucleus pushed towards the periphery because of the vacuole, while animal cell will have nucleus in the center. Okay, so plant cell's nucleus will be in the periphery, while animal cell will have a nucleus in the center. Okay, so here is one more slide just to revise all the points that we have discussed. Animal cell, there is no cell wall. Plant cell wall is present. Animal cell, there is no large vacuole present in the center. Plant cell, there is a large vacuole in the center. Animal cell, chloroplast is absent, and in plant cell, chloroplast is present. Okay, so now let's move towards the last part of this lecture, or the second last part, that is structural level of organization. So what is the level of organization? Cell is going to be the smallest unit. That is, it is going to be the smallest unit of life, both structural unit as well as functional unit. Since we are multicellular organisms, there will be millions of cells in our body. These cells will divide themselves in small units or groups. Now, each group of cells will be performing one similar function. That is, for example, one group of cell is performing the function of excretion, the other cell of the body is performing the function of conduction. So these small units or group of cells which are performing one function are called tissues. Now these different types of tissues will combine together to form organs. For example, there will be for example, your kidney is an organ, your brain is an organ. It will have different tissues in it that is forming its structure. Now these organs, all the organs will combine together and form one organ system. Now this one organ system will have all the organs that are performing one same function. For example, your digestive system. It has all the organs that is performing digestion. For example, your excretory system has all the organs that performs excretion. Now all these organ systems will come together form an organism. So this is the structure level of organization. That is, the smallest unit is cell. It will combine to form tissues. Tissues will combine to form organ. Organ then will form organ system, and then organ system together will constitute an organism. So this is the last part of the cell, or this is the last part of this lecture. That is, we have to explain some specialized cells. Okay, so what are specialized cells? Specialized cells are some cells which are performing one special function. And to perform this one special function, they have some structural modifications present inside them. For example, when we were young or kids, we all were alike. But then we grew up and then we matured. And after maturation, we some of us became doctors, some of us became engineers. So basically what we have done is we have differentiated, or we have specialized in some fields. In the same way, when cells were young, they all look same, but with time they matured and they grow, and then they specialize into some one particular cell, or which performs one particular function which other cells cannot. So these are specialized cells. Okay, so root hair cells are specialized cells. They have a cytoplasmic extension over here. These are called root hairs. The function of root hair cell is absorption. So by having an extension of cytoplasm, it increases the surface area for absorption. So since the root hair cells have increased surface area for absorption, it will absorb better or faster. So having a root hair cell is an modification present inside our root cells, in root cells. Okay, so root cells perform absorption better than other cells of the body. And why is that? Because of these root hairs. Okay, so now our next example is xylem. So how xylem vessels perform their function? For example, when xylem vessels are young, they are arranged on top of each other. So these are xylem cells. They are arranged on top of each other. And since they are cell, they will have cytoplasm as well, and nucleus and other organelles. Okay, so when they are young, this is the image of xylem vessels when they were young. It's, okay. So with time, what happened is, as they grew up, their cell wall became thicker than it was before. So here's a thick xylem vessel, xylem cell wall. Okay, so that the xylem walls became thick. The second thing that happened was the cytoplasm of these cells got disappeared with time, and the cell became inactive. Lastly, the wall that was connecting these cells, it also disappeared with time. So these are the modifications that appeared in xylem vessel. As you can see over here, the cell wall of these xylem vessel is thick. There is no cytoplasm in between, and the wall connecting these xylem vessels have also disappeared. So these modifications took place so that the xylem vessel can perform its function of conduction of water better. So this is how conduction of water in xylem vessel takes place. What are the modifications that happen in it? Firstly, its cell wall became thicker. The cytoplasm got disappeared. As the xylem vessel does not need to perform metabolism, the only function it has to perform was to conduct water. So it does not need its cell cytoplasm. And lastly, the walls connecting them disappeared so that it can form a continuous column for conduction of water. So this xylem serves as a hard pipe for water conduction. Okay, so in the same way, there are other specialized cells in the body as well. This include red blood cells. The function of red blood cell is to transport oxygen. So for that, it will have hemoglobin, and it will have that particular biconcave shape that other cells does not have. So this biconcave shape helps it in uh, passing small vessels as well. Besides this, it will have no nucleus and no organelles to increase the surface area. In the same way, there will be other specialized cells as well, like your muscle cells, like your neurons. They are performing their special function, and for that, they have some modifications in their structure. So, thank you. This was it for today's lecture. We have discussed all the objectives. That is, we have discussed the structure of cell, we have discussed the function of cell membrane and cell wall, and how animal cell is different from plant cell. We have discussed the specialized cells, and we have discussed the examples of specialized cells, as well as we have learned about the structural level of organization. So for any of your questions, you can comment on this video and I will reply to them. Thank you. That was it for today.